Hey guys, it's Amanda and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my fall wrap-up. So I'm going to be telling you all the books that I read during the fall this year. So let's get right into it. So, I've had less books than I've had in other years that I've read during the fall. I will admit that. I only read I only read 5 books. I only read 5 books through September through October because I consider November as winter in my mind because I started Halloween during July and my fall was from July till October. I'm going on normal people's schedule and going from September to the end of October of all the books that I read during those months. So this is what is going on. The first book I read is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Yes, of course, I did read Harry Potter. I've read Harry Potter many, many times. I know the story of Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter, and I will continue to speak in this accent when I speak of Harry Potter. So yes, I did read Harry Potter. This was the first time I actually read it all the way through, and I've always loved Harry Potter, and I really just started really getting into it. Like, I've always known what Harry Potter was, and my teacher and my singing teacher both wanted me to really start reading them. They really think I would really enjoy them, and turns out I really do. So I did read the first and original Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is actually 20 years old now. The 20th anniversary is coming up, and that blows my mind. Harry Potter is 20 years old. So I will read you the back, but I'm sure many of you know the story of Harry Potter, but if you don't, here we go. Harry Potter has never played a sport while flying on a broomstick. He's never worn a cloak of invisibility, befriended a giant, or helped hatch a dragon. All Harry knows is a miserable life with the Dursleys, his horrible aunt and uncle, and their abominable son, Dudley. Harry's room is a tiny closet at the foot of the stairs, and he hasn't had a birthday in 11 years. But all that is about to change when a mysterious letter arrives by an owl messenger. A letter with an invitation to a wonderful place he never dreamed existed. There he finds not only friends, aerial sports, and magic around every corner, but a great destiny that's been waiting for him, if Harry can survive this encounter. Harry Potter. Do I need to say any more? By the way, I'm a Hufflepuff. The second book that I read during fall is Dracul by Dacre, Stoker, and J.D. Barker. I have talked about this book many times on my channel before. It is somewhat of a retelling of Dracula, but it's also not. I've tried to explain it horribly in every single video I've talked about it, and I don't know what else to even tell you. It's basically the story of Dracula and the story of Bram Stoker's life mixed into one. So it's basically how he came to write Dracula, but as if Dracula actually did happen. So it's his life and the story of Dracula all combined type thing. I can't explain it. You just have to read it. It's 1868 and 21-year-old Bram Stoker waits in a desolate tower to face an indescribable evil. Armed with only crucifixes, holy water, and a rifle, he prays to survive a single night, the longest one of his life. Desperate to record what he has witnessed, Bram scribbles down the events that led him here. A sickly child, Bram spent his early days bedridden in his parents' Dublin home, tended by his caretaker, a young woman named Ellen Crone. When a string of strange deaths occur in the nearby town, Bram and his sister Matilda detect a pattern of bizarre behavior by Ellen, a mystery that deepens chillingly until Ellen vanishes suddenly from their lives. Years later, Matilda returns from studying in Paris to tell Bram the news that she has seen Ellen, and the nightmare they've thought long ended is only beginning. And one of my favorite blurbs that are on the back here is from the one and only R.L. Stine, and that is, reading Dracul is like watching a classic vampire film. Bram Stoker lives. Dracula lives. Horror lives on nearly every page. A terrifying read that gave me hours of fun. Dracul, I gave what did I give it? I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars on GoodReads. By the way, if you have not followed my GoodReads yet, go and follow my GoodReads. So yes, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, or if I'm wrong, it's a 3 out of 5. I don't remember. I think it's a 4 out of 5 though. I liked it. It was very well written. I loved the imagery during this, and I love vampires, Team Edward, Twilight. Don't even get me started. So, of course, I love the story of Dracula. I think this was a very well done book. I liked how everything was put together, and I like how this is a mixed media book where they have obviously the normal book, and then they also have actual pages from his notebook, from his journal, and there's a lot of cool things in here. So I do like that. And I love how half of this is actually real. That is what basically it's what it is. It's basically saying that vampires are real, because hey, you never know. So yes, this was a very good book. I loved it. I loved it. And I would read it again. I would. It's very scary. It's not very scary. It's Dracula. What do you want? It's Dracula. But it's very gothic. It's very dark, scary, typical. It's a wonderful book. Read this book. The next book I read is The Girl and the Goddess, Stories and Poems of Divine Wisdom. Now, this book was called to me in Barnes & Noble. I was just looking for a book. I was looking in the poetry section and I'm like, universe, help me go and find a good book that will give me wisdom. And this is the book that I picked up. It is a beautiful poetry book. It is so pretty. I love the art on it, and it is so pretty. I will read you the back. Meet Pero, a young girl with a strong will, a full heart, and much to learn. Born into a family reeling from the ruptures of partition in India, we follow her as she crosses her precocious lines between childhood, teenage discovery, and realizing her adult self. In the process, Pero must confront her fear, desire, and the darkest parts of herself in the search for meaning and ultimately empowerment. Nikita Gill's vivid poetry and beautiful illustrations have captured hearts and imaginations, but The Girl and the Goddess, she shares her most personal and deeply felt writing to date. An intimate coming-of-age story told in linked poems that offer a book into Hindu mythology and the rich culture influences that helped her become the woman she is today. This book was so beautiful, and yes, it is a poetry book, but it is a book that connects. It's not just a thing full of poetry that doesn't really connect. It is a complete thing of poetry that does connect. And it has beautiful artwork in here, some beautiful illustrations, and there are some very dark topics in here, so I will put that out there, but there's beautiful illustrations. These are most beautiful illustrations I've ever really seen. And yeah, it does have some dark topics. There's a lot of loss and what the world thinks of women, so there is that in there. Yes, but this was a very good book. It has a lot to do with topics that are a little controversial, so I will put that out there, but this was so beautiful. I loved it, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. So if you would want to read this, just be warned about the trigger warnings I gave you, and yes, you should really enjoy this. The next book I have here is Unbirthday by Liz Brasswell. Now, you guys know how much I love my Disney retellings. I have this entire shelf dedicated to Disney retellings. So when I saw this, I love this series first up. My entire Liz Brasswell Twisted Tales series is right here. So when I saw that they made a Alice in Wonderland one, I just had to get my hands on it. And first off, look at the cover. Look how beautiful it is. Look at it. Look at it. Just look at it. So this is Unbirthday, and it says, what if Wonderland was in peril and Alice was very, very late? Oh my god, I love this book so much. I will read you the inside. Alice is different from other 18-year-old ladies in Victorian Kexford, which is perfectly fine with her. She'd rather spend golden afternoons taking pictures with her trusty camera, chatting with her outrageous Aunt Vivian, or visiting the children in the square than receiving visitors or doing embroidery. Thank you very much. She also is interested in learning more about the young lawyer she just met, but only because he's rather curious, not because he's rosy-cheeked and charming. But when Alice develops, the latest photographs of her neighbors, strangely familiar faces appear instead. The Queen of Hearts, the Mad Hatter, and even the Caterpillar. There's something quite off about them, even for Wonderland creatures. And in her self-portrait, Alice finds the most disturbing image of all, an imprisoned and endangered dark-haired girl begging for Alice's help. Returning to the place of nonsense from her childhood, Alice finds herself on a mission to stop the Queen of Hearts and military march across Wonderland, and to find her place in both worlds. But will she be able to do so before the end of time? Oh, this book was so great. This was better than the reimagined, I'm gonna say this was better than the Johnny Depp reimagined versions of Alice in Wonderland. I just said that. Those words literally just came out of my mouth. This was better than the Tim Burton version. That's saying a lot. So this, I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. It was very fast paced. The imagery, the character development. I love Liz Brasswell's writing. Every single one of her books have been this amazing. I gave every single one of these a 5 out of 5 stars. I am a Disney lover. I love Disney since I was a very young girl, and Disney has always just been a part of my life. So when I just love to read all about my favorite Disney tales and just having them all twisted up. So yes, this was so good. Read this. If you love Alice in Wonderland, of course you're going to enjoy this. And if you are a Disney fan, and even if you are not a Disney fan, I think this would be really good. And if you know a little bit of Alice in Wonderland, or even if you don't, I think this will really pull you in. This was very good. The next and final book I have here is The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorn. Now, of course, yes, I read The Scarlet Letter for school recently, so yes, I have read The Scarlet Letter. And I bet most of you know what The Scarlet Letter is about, but I'm still going to read the inside. The Scarlet Letter, America's first psychological novel, exploded society's view of Puritanism upon its initial publication in 1850. And today, perhaps more than ever, it holds the power to change the way we think about human relationships, punishment, and the status quo. Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel is a dark tale of love, crime, and revenge set in colonial New England. It revolves around a single, forbidden act of passion that forever alters the lives of 3 members of a small Puritan community. Hester Prynne, a fierce woman who bears the symbol of her sin, the letter A, stitched into her breast of her gown. In humble silence, the Reverend Arthur Dimmesdale is a respected public figure who is inwardly tormented by long-hidden guilt, and the malevolent Roger Chillingworth, Hester's husband, a man who sees with a lust for vengeance. The landscape of this classic novel is uniquely American, but the themes it explores are both timeless and universal. The nature of sin, guilt, and patience, the clash between our private and public sleeves, and the spiritual and psychological cost of living outside society. Constructed with the elegance of the Greek tragedy, The Scarlet Letter brilliantly illuminates the truth that lies within the human heart. Scarlet Letter. There was a joke that my English class and I said when we first read this. We were like, we were going to make a t-shirt that said, "I survived the Scarlet Letter." Yeah, and I think we pretty much did survive the Scarlet Letter. This was brutal. This was very brutal, but it was very well worth it. The book was good. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. The whole story is, it's a good story. Don't get me wrong, this is a perfect, wonderful story, and it gives us so many lessons about life, of course. I understand why schools obviously have to read this, because it is really good for us. Now, of course, that doesn't mean the writing is entertaining. Oh, this was good to get through, but also boring. Nathaniel Hawthorne's writing, he's very well known for really putting a lot into his sentences. He has very wordy sentences, and of course this was written in 1850, so things are a lot different than what they are now. But yes, his writing style is very potent. Like, it takes a whole page to get to one sentence. He describes a lot. He's very critical with this. His writing is very long. Otherwise, it is very good story. I believe everyone should read The Scarlet Letter, and I have done two papers so far on this, so I really do understand it now. Of course, sometimes while reading this, for me, I didn't understand what was happening at some times because of his writing style. It just took a while for him to actually get to the point, and then once he actually got to the point, I'm like, wait, what was the point? So after analyzing it and doing research on it and doing the papers and all the work I had to do for it, I obviously now understand what everything happened. But I would say do your research before you read this and as you're reading it, because sometimes there is a lot of different stuff that will be brought up that you may or may not know. So you might have to look up what this word meant, what that word meant, and different stuff like that, because it is, of course, a book that was written in 1850. This was a very lovely book. I believe everyone should read it. I did give it a 2 out of 5 stars just because it's not something I would read, but of course I had to, so I did read it. It was quite good. I liked the whole story of it. I loved how poetic his writing was. I do love that. And the story, I just really liked the story and the character development, the deep and darkness of the character development. It was so good. It was so, so good. So yes, 2 out of 5 stars, Scarlet Letter. Everyone should read this. If you haven't read it yet, you probably will at some point for college or in high school, whatever. And if you haven't read it and you're out of school, why don't you read it? Read it for your own good. So these were all the books that I read during the fall of 2021. Oh my gosh, I loved every single one of these books. I wish I read a little bit more than 5 books in 2 months, but again, it was me being in school. I've had 2 different shows going on during the fall, so yes, I wish I read more. We have a lot going on, and with school and everything, it is kind of hard to actually get some reading in, but I'm just glad that I was still able to read 5 books. So it does not matter how many books you read, it is matter that you are reading. It doesn't matter how many, just you need to still read, because reading is wonderful. So that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me put this stack of books down so I don't break anything in this outro. So that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Please give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you have not already, and click the notification bell so you've been notified every single time that I upload. And if you want any more content from me, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, GoodReads, Pinterest, and in between the pages of a book. If you've read any of these books, please comment that down below and tell me what your current read is right now. I would love to know. As always, remember to be the Captain Jack Sparrow of your story, and may your compass lead you to amazing things. And I shall see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.